This is the second half of the interview, and we're just going to get a little deeper into his discourse community. So it is said that language might develop to determine who the insiders are and who are the outsiders. Do you believe in this statement?
Yes, I do. Um, if you go around people and talk about football that doesn't have an interest in the game, you can say a few things that we say, and it's almost like its own sidetrack of language where you may be talking about a wide receiver or a slot. I mean, are you just saying a WR? That means a wide out. I mean, about football and you're around people that don't know football, they'll almost think you're talking foreign. But you're actually just talking about positions on the football field or formations, defensive coverages, offensive formations, and people will be sitting there saying, "What in the world? I formation? What is an I?" I mean, but I mean, it's just different things, different lingo and things that we use uh, to describe things in football. You may hear Putwood. It's a Putwood kid. He country boy strong. Different terminology or different things. He's a stud. I mean, like I said, different things that we use in football. Different things when you mean different. You're talking in the regular world. Are you talking amongst regular people?
Would you say that's you feel funny? Would you say if like the plays that you call wouldn't that be keeping the insiders out because you don't want the other team to understand how you're gonna play the ball?
Yes, yes, and even sometimes as you're going through the course of the game, a team may catch on to you. Sometimes we use different signals. We'll have two coaches doing hand signals or something like that to kind of keep them off track, keep them off guard. But I was on a team at once. If somebody caught on to what we were doing, we could if we changed to a different set of names, it meant the same exact thing, but now we're names to call the different plays that we wanted to use or to call the snap count. We had was right, South was left, and we'll probably use that for the first quarter. And once the team started catching on, North King and Queen, King was right, Queen was left. Florida, Georgia, Florida was left, Georgia was right. Oklahoma and it was Oklahoma and right. So we did a few different things that you mean that would throw people off if they did catch on to our lingo that we were doing during the game to something else, so they couldn't catch on to what we were doing.
You say that's different as being an assistant pastor.
Uh, I would say so. I would say so. I mean, I guess there will be some things. I think in every walk of life, I mean, you have some things where, I mean, you and someone that has talked so much about certain things, and you can see something, and you just look at each other, and you know, I mean, what you're talking about. I mean, you could have been at home talking to your wife about da 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 da, and you get to church, and boom, happen. You're like, I mean, and I mean, they know what the looks mean, or they know exactly what it means. Um, so I would even say also at church too. I mean, where you almost will have a different lingo at times to kind of keep things separate. Um, and everything is not for everybody to know. So you mean you definitely sometimes, and it may not be such a secret or keeping it away from people or talking in front of people, but maybe some things you discuss behind closed doors where you mean it's not for everybody to know what is going on.
And so, how would you say the needs of your workplace explain the textual genres that you use
Um,
in both
with
situations?
football, I think it's a necessity. that you have a different type of lingo, like you were saying earlier about when you're going against a different team, playing against somebody different, you got to have a different lingo. And even sometimes when you're practicing against your own squad, you can't do all the stuff that you want to do because the players on your team, they hear the same things all the time, so they'll know exactly what play you're doing. So you almost got to hide what you're doing also in practice. So you mean you can get a good idea of what your defense can do. You mean, and they're not just they hearing us call a play and they're saying, well, they're running the ball right here. They're throwing these combinations of routes. So sometimes we would have to do different things even in practice to kind of keep the defense off guard, so they wouldn't know exactly what we were doing. So I believe it plays a major part in what we do, because if somebody can figure out what you're doing, they can stop what you're doing. So if, in football, it definitely plays a major part, and in the church, I also too. I think I mean, it's ideal that it plays a part too, where I mean everybody's not supposed to know everything. So you mean you have to kind of keep things separate. Keep like, I don't want to say secretive, but keep things separate sometimes. I mean, somebody could be going through something in their life, and it's not something for everybody to know. I mean, it's only something for the pastor one, his assistant pastor to know, and we're the only two that know about their situation. I mean, it's not the church. It's not church headline news. It's just, I mean, behind the scene things that go on. So you mean so it works in both.
And what about the mechanisms of intercommunication?
I would say signs and symbols with football. We just use signs and symbols.
What type of signs do y'all use?
Uh, this right hand up this way would mean green for the formation. Left hand this way would mean yellow. Red, right hand up. Yellow. I mean, blue. Left hand up. Orange. We have also another formation called urban. If you go do this right here, the gator chop, it'd be urban. I don't like the gators, but it's just something that we came up with. But we have different, like I said, different things, right and left. Also too for our running plays. This right here would be kind of like our Saints, tall sweet, Buffalo, Denver. You're driving a car. Uh,
Don't give out all your symbols
he
now.
better not tell me. He better not tell me stuff. I'm coming to find you. Two C's was kind of. One C was kind of it was a stretch play. So you mean we use different symbols, and then you will have another coach on the sideline. He'll just be doing different things, and you'll think he may be even speaking in sign language or something. And you mean the coach is doing the simple stuff, and you mean you'll be like, is he really giving out the plays? I mean, so it's kind of make it kind of hard to figure out which coach is giving out the plays, but the coach is probably doing the simplest stuff. It's a coach that has the plays and the formations.
So, to explain how a discourse community functions and thrives and succeeds and things of that nature, there are six characteristics, which are the common goal, the mechanisms of intercommunication, providing information and feedback, the genres, the lexis or the language, and also the many experts or the content that's going through their discourse. Now, have you witnessed your discourses go through these phases?
Yes. And I believe like with anything that you do, you first have to set goals. If you don't set any goals for what you're doing, you're almost just kind of just running around in a circle. But if you can set goals and kind of mark off, okay, we've hit this goal or we hit this limit. Okay, let's go to the next phase of what we're doing. And then to that also has to do with intercommunication, because to set goals and when you're working with people to set goals, you have to communicate with one another to set goals. And also too, when setting goals, you don't want to set goals that are out of your range. Your football team, you're just getting on. You saying, well, I want to go 13 and 0. I mean, I'm not saying you can't go 13 and 0, but maybe highly unlikely. Or you mean you're a new church and you saying first service we're gonna have 500 members and you only got a building that can sit 100 people. I mean, let's be realistic about the goals that we set. So you mean you also you have to set common goals, intercommunication, providing feedback. I think the feedback comes from you mean what you see from the results of what goals you place, what goals you set in place, and also too from also intercommunication of you're talking, hey coach, what did you think about this? Hey pastor, what did you think about that? I think you get feedback from the people that you're working with in your circle. What do you mean the genres? What do I mean?
The genres are basically the languages,
Oh, the
the
languages.
types that other
Uh,
people read or write. Like maybe the players with the player book and the church with the Bible. Maybe those are different genres
uh, well,
because they have to intake it differently. Like people take in the Bible differently, and how different players will take their position in the playbook differently and stuff
mhm.
like that.
So with the genres, I guess you would say you would see how the church with the Bible. I would say you'll see how
The language is next.
the languages. Like I said, it's different. It's different languages. There are a lot of different languages for football, but different languages for church. I mean, I guess we may make a joke or two about a language in church, but other than that, use in church, and then the extra members. I think with if we could gain knowledge from them, uh, learning from them, we feel like we know it all, and just continue to learn from the people that have been here before us. Even if you got to do the kind of research that people that have gone before you. I mean, I think it'll help your program or whatever you're involved in be better by maybe taking an idea. You don't have to take their whole philosophy, but taking maybe ideas here and there to help whatever your organization is to be.
For newcomers, like new members in the church or new people that want to have a high role in the church, and also or like you said earlier, new coaches that want to come on the team, what specifically like qualifications for each member of these discourse communities to possess?
Um, in the church, I don't think you're really looking for is a skill. I would say you're not really looking for a skill. You're just looking for people that are willing and ready.
Would you say dedication?
Okay, yeah, I guess you can go with dedication. I mean, but I don't think you look for a specific skill. I mean, because if you when we look in the Bible, Jesus a lot of times, or God a lot of times, used people in areas. Some people didn't have proper speech, and I mean, they didn't know how to go in the front of people. But God was saying that's the person that for a skill in the person, and God is looking at the person that doesn't have any skills at all. So I wouldn't say you look for a person with skills in the church. I mean, you get them as they come, and as they come, you try to adapt them to the culture of the church. Now with football, I would say you look for speed. I mean, I believe strength and power is one thing, but man, if you can get somebody with some speed that can put some points on that board, you can be a difference maker. I believe speed makes money. I mean, they say speed kills. You can get you somebody with some wheels. So, and I'm looking for football players. I'm looking for guys that are pretty athletic. If you're athletic and you got a pretty good set of wheels on you, we can do something with you. I mean, I don't know if you remember Forrest Gump, but they used to just say, "Forrest, run." You know what I mean, that's all I got to do. He ain't got to know no plays. His son, run to the right. You know what I mean, and just let him go. I mean, don't stop him. Don't let the. That's where I want you to go. Or go left, whatever you need. But if you can find somebody with a good set of wheels, good balance, and just give them the ball and say go that way. I mean, they don't even got to know the plays. Just go that way. If they're fast enough, they'll make it to the end zone. So with football, I think you look for skill, you look for speed, and you also look for size too. Um, Coaching football for years, you understand that you can't win football without the trenches. The trenches, and that's another word. You know what trenches is?
Mm.
See, there we go. I mean, I went
What's trenches?
right over here. Trenches are the offense and defense alignment in the trenches. That's what they call it in the trenches.
Mm.
All right, so you mean you look for your big guys, call them the big uglies. They ain't got to be ugly, but we just call them big uglies. Okay, but I mean if you can find good size, where you can have a strong offense and decent defensive line, you win games in the trenches. If you can have a strong offense and defensive line, people that can open holes for the offense and close holes for the defense, you can be in the money. So if you can get you a little bit of speed, get you a guy that open one or two holes, and you get a guy on the defense that can close two or three holes, then you might be all right.
So, sticking with football, would you say that the boys they're not they're expected to be good and athletic, have the speed and the agility, but would you say that they're not expected to know the plays because they haven't worked with y'all? But is that something that they need to learn? They have to
Um,
learn over time.
yeah, that's something that they have to learn over time. And once we get a player into our system, we plug them into the huddle accounts. And once they get plugged into the huddle accounts, we tell them to look over the plays, and also too, we go over the plays a lot. Maybe we'll do board work some days. Some days we'll get out on the field, and then if it's during the season, I mean we're getting out on the field every day, and we're constantly going over plays. So I mean they're also getting a mental rep when they're home and they're looking over, and they're getting a physical rep also when they get it to school, and also getting a visual rep because we may run the play 5 or 6 times. So you may have the play ran 3 or 4 times in front of you, and then you get in the next time, and it's your turn to run the play. So you've gotten a mental rep, a visual rep. Now you're getting an actual rep. So now I mean you've covered all three bases of learning.
So with both discourse communities, how long do you say it took you to transition? And was it smooth or challenging?
Um, Football I would say was a little bit easier for me to transition into. Um, you mean I was already, I already knew a lot about football, but I thought it was easier for me to transition with football. With church it was a little bit different because it was like I almost had to relearn a lot of things. Where I mean, as you're in the world, you kind of, you're very prideful. You, you want to be the, you want to be the best. You want to be the man. That's you. But I mean, when you're coming into ministry, it's not about being prideful. It's about humbling yourself. So it's like going through a process of a breakdown where you're breaking down your old self, and then you're rebuilding yourself as the person that God wants you to be. So I would think my transition into football was easier than it was for me on the church side, because the church side I had to do a lot more of breaking down of who I was as the old man, and to learning how to do things the way that Christians do things, in the way that they carry themselves.
So do you feel like your transition to football was quicker than your transition to the church?
Yes.
Okay, and also, do you still feel as if you're in the transition process?
Like I said earlier, I don't ever feel like I'm to the place where I've learned all that I can. I always feel like there's room for improvement. I feel like if I ever get to a place where I don't feel like I can improve anymore, I need to step away from the game, or from the pulpit. So I still feel like in both games, I'm still transitioning and still learning to be better, learning how to perfect my craft, perfect my coaching skills, and perfect my preaching skills. And if I feel like I said, if I feel like I get to a place where I've done all these things, where I've reached that pinnacle, then I need to step down from what I'm doing.
And so, also going back to newcomers, what would you say that a new coach could come in? Maybe he does have years, maybe he doesn't. Do you feel like he could just shoot up the head coach?
Um, it matters what what level of football that you're talking about. Um, Part one of middle school and high school, and in the high school, depending on the area that you're in and what school you're coaching for, yeah, a new coach that has never coached football before can be a head coach in something like that. Now, if you go to, you mean you're going to Georgia football, or school that has been in existence for a while, they're not going to hire a guy that has never coached football before. They're going to find them a true football coach. Now, in the college football game and the pro, a guy just doesn't shoot up to the top. It's almost like a fraternity where, I mean, you got to go through your years of learning different things, being in different systems, and then somebody will call you and say, hey, I want you to be the head coach of my program, and then you get your opportunity. So, I mean, as you go up in football, no, a person just doesn't jump in and be a head coach and go to the top of the profession.
What about in the church?
In the church, you can have it in the church because different churches have, I would say, different rules. I would say where, I mean, they may have a board picking who they want to be the next pastor, and the board may meet somebody that they really really like, and they want him to be the next minister anywhere else. So in certain points, certain churches, you will have churches where a person can come in and be a pastor now, have a relationship with Christ, streets, and be saved one day and then they're the pastor the next day. No, but I think they may have to have shown that they have had a relationship being the pastor of a ministry. I would say, but I mean, I'm not the leader of all the churches in America.
So, as a college student who may not be looking at a coach for a bunch of guys or a pastor of a church, because I don't know, I do not like to speak in front of people. What do you think that I can learn from your discourse communities and how you?
Um, I think in whatever walk of life you go, you have to communicate and talk with people. And I think in both being a football coach and being a minister, that's something that you have to do a lot, where you have to talk with different people. You have to kind of get close to with them and learn at a close proximity. Learn, and be able to still love them, even though, I mean, they may do something that you don't like, or they may have a habit of something that they do that you don't like, but you still have to love them. I think once you begin to get into the working world, I mean, you're going to be working with that you're just not going to like. But even though you don't like them, I have to learn how to work together with this person to accomplish whatever goals my job needs us to accomplish. I mean, it kind of helps you to guide. I mean, and look past what a person may be, what they may look like, the sexual orientation, and say, hey man, we got one goal. We got to come together. We have being a coach and being a pastor, and it can help others get past that point, or the sexual orientation, or what they like or who they like, and say, hey man, we got to come together to build something that can last. So I think it can help out in that part of life.
So this has been the second part of my second interview, and basically you just got a little snippet of how coaches work and how an assistant pastor works and how they communicate with others and and how they just work in the discourse community. Thank you.
Why you hit